Hello and welcome back to another video. I'm going to keep this video short and sweet, and I want to show you today how to quickly also, but how to correctly print out the sewing pattern and how to put it together. So let's go. When you purchase one of my sewing patterns, you're going to get an email. You're going to get two emails. One is the order confirmation, and then you're going to get another email with a link to download the sewing pattern. And I would really recommend you to also check your spam folder, because often the email ends up in there. If you can't find the email, just send me an email and I'll send it to you again. And then you have three options. Like, you're gonna get 4 files actually. One file is gonna contain some general information about the sewing pattern, including the size chart. Then you're gonna get the sewing pattern in A0, which most people don't have an A0 printer at home, so you can go to a copy shop and get it printed. This way you're gonna save a lot of time because you don't need to glue the pages together. Then you're gonna get it in A4. If you want to print the A4 file, you need to make sure that you have A4 paper in your printer. And then you're also gonna get the file in US letter, which is only used in the US. Again, I don't know why they're doing it differently than the rest of the world, but they have a different, like in the US you have a different paper size than the A4, it's slightly different. So it depends which paper you're using. If you use A4 paper, you need to print the A4 file. If you have the US letter paper size, you need to print the US file. And now I'm going to show you how to print it. I'm going to show you now how to print the Josie top sewing pattern, and I opened the A4 file because I'm using A4 paper. So now I'm going to go to print. At the beginning I would recommend you to only print the first page, so I'm going to put page 1 to 1. You can either print it in color, but you could also print it in black and white because all sizes have different dotted lines. But I'm going to print it in color today. And then here you need to set the scale to 100%. And now I'm just going to print it. Now you need to measure one of those test boxes. This one is either 2 inches times 2 inches or 5 centimeters times 5 centimeters. You only have to measure one of them. 5 centimeters. And 5 centimeters. You could also measure this box, the 2 inch times 2 inch. But if the 5 centimeter one is correct already, then this one will also measure correctly. And then once you know that the settings of the printer were set correctly, we can go back to our computer. And then we click on print again. And this time, because I already printed the first page, I can select range from 2. There's a total of 13 pages, so I'm going to print 2 to 13. I'm going to print it in color again, as you can see here. And now it's important again to set the scale to 100% again. And with my sewing patterns, so let's start with A1. So here we have A1, then down we have A2, A3, A4, A5, and so on. And then here we have B1, B2, B3, B4, and so on. C1, C2, C3, and so on. D1, D2, D3, and then it just continues. E1, E2, and so on. So now I'm going to show you how to actually glue them together. So with this sewing pattern we have A1, and then we don't have any other pages that have an A. So the next one is B1. And then you can also see that the numbers and letters here, that they match. So we have AB11, AB11, and down here AB22, AB22, so you know they are a match. And then you want to make sure that this dotted line down here lines up, and you're going to put it where the dotted line here is. Then you take some clear tape and tape it together. The next page we have after is B2, so it comes below B1. And again, you want to make sure that this dotted line on the side here is lining up. And you're going to put it right on top of B1, where the dotted line is. The next page we have is C1. So C1 comes on top of B1, and it's the same again. The dotted line down here needs to line up, and you're going to put it right there where the dotted line is. Then we have C2. And another thing I want to say, maybe you can see here that my printer didn't print the line that goes this way and this way down here and over here. But that is just because some printers don't print all the way to the edge. But it doesn't matter at all. Like, as long as you have set your scale of the printer to 100% and the test box at the beginning measured correctly, then you don't have to worry about if there's the edges not printed all the way. And once you have glued your sewing pattern together, you can take your measuring tape and you can open the file that also came with the sewing patterns about some general information, and then you can take your measurements. And when you take your measurements, just make sure that you wrap, for example, the bust part, wrap it around the widest part of your bust. Make sure that you can still wiggle it around, like move it around a little bit. You don't want it to be super tight, and you also don't want it to be too loose that it's just sliding down. And the same goes for your waist and for your hips. Find the widest point of your waist, find the widest point of your hips. And then once you have found the right size in the size chart and figured out which size you want to make your piece in, then you can go back to the page A1 of your sewing pattern and find the right line to cut your sewing pattern out in. I'm going to make mine in a size small, so I need to follow the purple line. But if I would have printed it out in black and white, I could just follow this dotted line here. And now we can start cutting it out. And I would always recommend you not to take your fabric scissors. Get a pair of scissors that you only use to cut out paper. So here we have now the sewing pattern for the Josie top. Now you could go to the tutorial for it. But even if you're making another one of my sewing patterns, like the concept of the sewing patterns, like how to put them together, is all the same. It's really easy. But again, if you want to save time, just print them out in A0. It's just more expensive and it's just more convenient, in my opinion, just to print it out at home. But I hope this video helped, and I can't wait to see photos of your finished sewing with Solana pieces. So please send me photos. Goodbye.